Hey guys, what's going on? The Fortinet Championship kicks off tomorrow, kicking off the 21-22 PGA Tour season. Pretty excited. Don't like the West Coast timing on these things. It's a little, things folks tee off late in the day, but it should still be a really fun event. Again, not the greatest field in the world. John Rahm's headlining things. He has a very good chance of winning this thing if he plays at his best, or even not at his best, honestly. Like the rest of the field's not that good. But we are not going to bet him at 3-1. So we're going to take a look at my betting card for the week, talk about Draftkings strategy, ownership, some of the things that I'm doing with my lineups, because we have some guys that we don't have a lot of data for. So how should we approach that? Some of the uncertainty there. Take a look at some of the popular plays as well. So leading off, let's take a look at our betting card for the week. So you'll see I have about 10 guys on the card for the week. Stretching it a little bit, so I have almost 5 units in play this week, but a lot of the mid-range, I'm hammering that pretty hard. This is definitely an event where some crazy name could win. These resort-style courses and these sorts of weak field events, there's a lot of volatility, and someone could come out and gain, 10 strokes putting and win this thing. Let's hope that it's one of our guys. So I did bet Charlie Hoffman at 35-1. He is a really good course fit. Stat profile looks really solid. He's a little bit inconsistent. It worries me. I think he's going to be a little bit popular on Draftkings. You either have to pick a lane and go way over or way under on Charlie Hoffman, but I'm definitely betting him. I'm also betting Harold Varner. This, I feel like, is an endeavor we take on every week, that he's in these sorts of fields, and this week you're not getting a discount on him at all, but I do like it, so we're going to ride Harold Varner. Sebastian Munoz might be my favorite play of the slate, so I'll regret saying that later when he's 7 over par or something on Friday, but Sebastian Munoz is rated out second in my stat model. Of all of these other kind of standard PGA Tour names, I don't know if he's flying under the radar, but he's definitely going to come in a little bit lower owned. He's a guy that can make a ton of birdies. He's a good putter. He is pretty good with the wedges. Again, this is kind of long iron and wedges at this course is going to be key to success. And again, he can putt. He's a winner on the swing season in the past. So Munoz might be my favorite. I'm glad. It seems like with a lot of people betting guys like Hoffman, even guys in the 20s like Kevin Na, some of those guys, like Munoz is getting overlooked because his number did drop. So that line movement to me suggests that he could be a really nice leverage play on DraftKings. So I waited a little bit to jump on it, and I'm glad I did because it went the right way. So he was at 40, 45 all week, dropped to 50 this morning. So jumped on that, got Munoz at 50-1. Also jumping on Maverick McNeely. Again, guy that is a little longer off the tee. He's a Cali kid, so this should be, it's not a home course event for him by any stretch of the imagination, but he does tend to play well in California. I really like this play a lot. Gonna go with Pat Perez as well at 60-1. He's another guy that just plays well on these resort style courses. He's coming in good form as well. Doug Gim, I waited way too long on. He's down to 60-1. He opened at 90-1, but I don't want to miss the Doug Gim train. He's another guy rating out very well, top 10 in my stat model, so we're going with him. Taylor Gooch, eventually this guy is going to win. He's pretty good. He always tends to play well again in the swing season, so he's a decent putter on POA and bent grass, so we're going to go with him at 65. And then I have 3 bombs, so taking a shot on Mark Hubbard at 150-1. He is top 10 in this field in good drives gained and a good bent grass POA putter. So hopefully that is the key to success. We see Mark Hubbard get a strong finish. Doc Redman is a guy that I'm taking more of a long-term form play on. So he played well in a couple events before the playoffs. Was not consistent at all, but the events that he didn't play as well in were stronger fields. So I think in this field, at this number, he could be kind of a forgotten guy. Yeah, I think he finished top 5 here last year. I'm not putting a ton of weight on that side of it, but I do like Doc Redman anytime you can get a big number on him in these sorts of fields because he does have winning upside if he brings it with the irons. Just not 100% sure he's going to do that this week. Bo Hogue, last guy in my card, top 20 in my stat model for the week. Hopefully I'm the Bo Hogue whisperer, because the last time we used him, he was in contention all the way until late on Saturday into Sunday. So again, in this type of field, he's a little longer off the tee, good putter. Hopefully he gets it together. So this is our card for the week. If we hit, we're going to win somewhere around 25 units for the week in terms of net profit. Data Golf, if you are buying their stat models, are giving us about a 12% chance of doing that. So we shall see. I like to think that if we are taking stabs on these guys, that they actually have a better chance than maybe Data Golf is giving them. But I think this is still, a pretty stacked card with, some upside in here and some, big names that have been playing well of late. So that is my betting card. So if we then jump over to the Draftkings side of things. So in terms of ownership, it doesn't really look like the $12,000 price tag is scaring anybody away on Jon Rahm. So he's going to be popular. He's projected to be the most popular guy on the slate. He does need to more or less win or top 5 to be in the winning lineup at this price. And for me, again, anytime a guy this expensive, this popular, who... Again, it's Jon Rahm. He's the best player in the world. He can get it done in a million different ways, but his irons weren't as sharp. And again, I'm going back to this narrative that I think he's playing this week to get ready for the Ryder Cup. So a middling finish where he's working on some things is not going to get it done this week. So for me, I'm full fade on Jon Rahm. The rest of these guys that are popular, more or less going to have some exposure. I decided to get off of Kevin Na. I think that is a bit of a trap. So yes, this course sets up really well for him. Yes, he played well at the Tour Championship. But if you jump into the game log for Kevin Na, it is inconsistent. There are very few events, and again, he's better than most of the guys in this field, but there are very few events where he's gaining 6-7 shots on approach in back-to-back events. I just don't know that that's the smart thing to do at a 10K elevated price tag. So for me, I'm living in the 8 and 9K range. I don't normally do this. So this is kind of out there for me. I don't usually build a core around high 8 and low 9K guys. But for me, it's going to be Charlie Hoffman, going to be Harold Varner, Sebastian Munoz, and obviously getting a bit of exposure to some of these other guys. Perez, Gim, they're all going to be popular. You'll see in a second, just doing some business rules around not getting too many of these guys in the same lineup, right? So they're going to be popular. Other guys that I think are going to be popular, so Mito is projected at 15. I think that's going to be higher than that in actuality. Taylor Pendrith is, I think, the only guy that people have heard of on the Korn Ferry Tour. So I think that 12% could be a little low as well. But I think all of these guys are fine plays. Griot in that 12% range. I'm just not a Griot guy. Same thing with Ches Reavie. Anytime Ches Reavie is 17% owned, that just screams stay away. He did finish, I think, top 5 here last year. I'm sure that's driving some of that ownership. He's in good form. He's rating out well on everyone's stat models. But you need these guys to putt. That's the only way they're going to contend. And for me, I just don't want to bet on that happening. All of the crappy putters are not going to spike putting weeks. So make sure you're considering that. Don't build lineups with too many of the erratic, terrible putters, because they're not all going to pop. So just something to keep in mind. And then basically everyone else, in that 5-10% own range, I don't think that there's a reason to shy away from a lot of these other guys. So just build lineups, getting a couple of these, maybe lower owned guys in there. You can anchor on some of the more chalky popular guys, but just don't use chalky terrible putters all in the same lineup. If especially, if you're only building one lineup, you definitely don't want to do that. Maybe one or two if you're, mass entering, get a couple of these guys in a lineup, but don't go crazy with it. So that gets me to my lineup build. So again, another good week. As always, in general, leave some salary on the table. I'm building around my core of guys that I bet. So I'm going to make sure I have at least 3 guys that, again, usually have some guys in the mix, right? So I want every single lineup to have at least 3 of the guys that I bet on. So I'm kind of doubling down from that perspective, but I'm only playing the small dollar tournament on Draftkings this week anyway, so it's more for fun than anything. The other thing that I'm doing, again, no more than 3 of the chalky players on the slate. no more than 2 of, this is I think an important one, right? So I think some people are going to overcorrect in terms of the Korn Ferry Tour guys. Don't go crazy. Don't build lineups with 6 Korn Ferry Tour guys in them, or 4 of them, right? Like they're not all going to play well. Some of them will. So my favorites, you'll see in a second, like who those guys are. I just don't want any lineup to have more than 2 of them, because the odds are they're not all going to play well. Again, same thing with the crappy putters, right? Griot, Reeve, Gim, they're not all going to putt well. It's just hopefully you find the right 1 or 2 that do. So when you get into the actual exposures and see how this is shaken out in terms of some of my lineups, I'm going way overweight on Munoz, Varner, Hoffman, and McNeely, because those are the guys that I bet on. These guys are going to make or break my week. And then I'm just getting some exposure to the rest of these guys. So, a couple lineups with Cam Champ, Griot, again, some Reeve. I'm basically matching the field. I may end up being underweight on him by the time this is all said and done. I may end up fading him entirely just because that ownership number scares the hell out of me. So stay tuned for that. This is a perfect Brendan Todd course. Hit fairways, make putts. That's his bread and butter. He's going to be really low owned in the low 8K range. I think that may be a good play. So again, you don't have to go crazy if he's only going to be 3% owned. So get some exposure. Don't hate that at all. Pereira and Gooch are going to certainly have higher ownership than this, but I'm going to get some exposure to Mito, even though, again, like, I don't get it. Like, people love this guy because he won 3 times on the Korn Ferry Tour. I'm just not sold. So, I mean, yes, he can play well. Yes, he can win potentially, but I don't know that he has a higher likelihood than Taylor Gooch, who's, at least as of right now, projected to come in at, less than half the ownership. So, don't hate that. Pivot, again, don't also hate the pivot to someone like Brendan Todd. We'll have some Gim and Perez going overweight the field there. Then, again, just kind of even spread across the rest of these guys and taking some shots, not crazy shots, though, on the Korn Ferry Tour guys. So Hayden Buckley, David Lipsky, Davis Riley, Brandon Wu. I think Justin Sutt is in this field. I may get some exposure to him as well. He's just not in the optimizer on Fantasy National right now. So, again, I'm not sure that any of these guys are... certainly not all of them will play well. If you can figure out and tell me which ones you think will, feel free. Shout out in the comments, but I don't know. So I'm just going to take the ones that I think are the best in terms of the fit for this course, just parsing through some Korn Ferry Tour stats, what's available there. And you'll see that I'm also going overweight on guys like Doc Redman, Bo Hogue, Mark Hubbard, guys that I bet on. So this is my path for the week. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully, if you're following any of this, tailing any of this, you have a successful and profitable week 1 of the new PGA Tour season. As always, please give the video a like, subscribe to my channel, and we'll do an update over the weekend. I know I was bad about that with the playoff events, but there really wasn't much to talk about. So I'm definitely going to get back into the swing of things with weekend updates here for the Fortinet Championship. So as always, good luck, and we will talk soon. Thanks, guys.